So yes, we are here. Good morning. It's a new day. What's today? Wednesday, the 28th. Wednesday, June 28th. And welcome to an exploration of the depths of leadership. And it's time to grow. So I'll be bouncing back and forth because I have multiple cameras that are going on. And, I have my notes in front of me as well. So I'm going to be doing some heavy discussion there. But anyway, quick introduction. My name is Pinkney, Tiawan Pinkney. I am of course, podcast host. That's number one. Number two, I am an entrepreneur. I have worked in multiple corporate jobs where I've been in leadership, and I've been in leadership sort of across the spectrum of different positions, whether it's in operations, if it's in HR, you name it. I'm also a coach, so I coach. This is what's great. I coach both athletes and I coach other entrepreneurs and work with them, and they've had some great success. So across the board, whether I was in corporate America or whether I'm working with athletes or I'm working with entrepreneurs, what's been great is because I fully engulf myself in their experience and drive their success, doing my part, of course, because a lot of the legwork they have to do, they ultimately achieve their goal, and then we go beyond that and expand their goals. So that's just a little bit about me. So why this? Why do this? Number one, my strength. So training and development is my strength. It is something that I'm good at. It's what I've been successful at. So just like I said, I work with athletes. I work with other entrepreneurs in corporate America. All of my team members, the people who were employed by me, my direct reports, I fully engulf myself in their development and pushing them out of their comfort zone and giving them developmental opportunities to be successful. So that is a strength of mine. And what I'm doing here is I am actually bringing that experience, those successes, that background, the skill sets, right? The core competencies here so that I can expand that reach and help more entrepreneurs and more people just like yourself to achieve their goals. And that's what's most important, right? So it's my passion. Like I genuinely feel rewarded when I work with someone and they succeed. And it's never about me. It's never about me. It's never a thing where I win or I did this or I did that. It is like I legitimately get to see them go from one place to another. And I'll put it in this context, right? I worked for a company one time where the lady who became vice president, she became a VP after 23 years of working with the company. And she worked her way from the ground up. She was literally think of it in the context of pushing carts, right? At a grocery store or something. She was literally at the bottom, so to speak, at the bottom of the barrel, and she climbed her way all the way up. Now, it's very similar. I will work with people, and they will be there, and then I'll help them to get to a much higher place, and they're jumping level to level, especially if they have potential to jump 2 levels at a time, because that happens. We've seen that happen multiple times before. To me, that is so very awesome. The benefit of having someone like me be a part of that is how she took 23 years. It doesn't take us that long. Doesn't take us that long at all. We can move that needle a whole lot faster, like lightning speed compared to having to do it that way. But kudos to her, much respect. I know her personally, the lady that I'm talking about, I knew her personally, and I know that she did work really, really hard to get to that point, and she went through a lot. But okay, so what's my with them? What's in it for me? I am building a circle of leaders. I'm building a circle of winners, of people who aspire to be great. And that is what is important to me, to build the circle of people who just want to be great. That is huge because at the end of the day, say we're all in the conference room. Throughout that process with all of those experiences that you have, you're going to come across experiences that are going to cause you to generate ideas that you never thought of, but ideas that the person that you're now next to in this networking event or whatever, they never thought about. And so what happens is now you've got this huge circle of individuals who are really just standing behind each other, helping each other forge success, helping each other be successful. But everybody has a similar foundation where at some point in their career, hey, they went through Ty's program and they were successful. So now that I mentioned the program, what are the program goals? Now, I'm going to be looking here on the screen because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything, right? Everything that's in this program, in the program goals, may not be hit today. We may not hit them today, and that's okay because that is by design. I did not plan on hitting everything today. That was not we would be here all day. It is early in the morning. It's what is it? 5:05 now. We wanted to make sure that you were able to maneuver through your day successfully without that much of a distraction, but getting something out of it, me adding value to your morning as you prepare for your day. Or if maybe your shift is ending. If your shift is ending, you've got this on your mind. This is something that you're thinking about, and then you're going to come back the next day and you're going to apply some of the things that we talk about, right? So the program goes to level up in your career. If you're working at a job and you're looking to jump up to that next level, you're looking to take a leadership role, being able to level up because you've gained this knowledge and you're applying it. You're learning some things that maybe the company is not teaching you, because a lot of times some of the stuff is theoretical, some of the stuff is operational. A lot of it is tied to process because this is the way the business runs. However, there are certain skills and core competencies that you develop over time with leadership. What I do is try to speed that process up. The other one is gain new perspective and valuable insights. If you could sit next to a president, or you could sit next to a military general or someone like that, and you have discussions with them, one of the things you might find is that the way they see the world, the way they see life is very different than the way you see it. And it may broaden your perspective on how things really work. And when you have that opportunity, that is extremely high value. If you can sit next to a CEO, if it's not commonplace for you to sit next to a CPO or CEO and have those conversations, you're able to have those conversations and gather the knowledge that you may not get when you're with your counterpart or your colleague or your coworker or even your manager, your immediate manager. They may not have that knowledge. So if you're able to sit next to a CEO who can give you that knowledge, then that is also a plus, right? I want you to improve as a leader. Bottom line, I want you to improve as a leader. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about what leadership really is, because there are a lot of people who are leading organizations, and the beauty of how they lead their organization is that it is organic. They're doing so from a place where this is how they develop, this is how they got to this place, especially if it's a CEO who they come from a grassroots type background where they started the company and they've worked it to get it to a place where it's highly successful, and now they've brought on this entire staff and built this culture. I used to say all the time that I am not a CEO. Even as a CEO, I'm not a CEO. And that's because for me, when I think of CEOs, it's a person who they've created vision, they've sold a compelling story to the team, they've built a culture, they've got extreme buy-in from their team who is willing to die from them. The team has taken ownership of the vision and made it their own, and now everybody is doing everything to climb and get this company to the next place. And it's not so much that I haven't done that, but I haven't done that on the scale that I, in my eyes, would say is a CEO. That's how I used to feel, and my wife, she put it in the proper perspective to help me change that view. And since then, I've totally changed it. Not that I don't still feel those things. It's just when you step back and you look at everything that I've done, it's like, no, this is who you are, and there's nothing you can do to say that you aren't. You are that. And what happens is I go in environments and people, that's how they recognize me. That's how they introduce me. If I'm speaking or whatever, that's how I'm introduced. So real important. The other thing is I want to prepare you to step into a leadership role without missing a beat. This is important. Listen, I don't know if you've ever had this where you get a promotion in a company, and It's happened to me. So let's say that it's happened to me before. I know other people that have said the same thing, where you get this promotion, you step into this really high level position, you've gone through training, you've done everything. You get into that office on the first day, that Monday after training and everything is done, you've gotten past all that. Now you're in there and it's like, okay, what do I do now? What's the first move? So it's being able to sit back and really sort of gather yourself, but do so confidently. So that way, when you step into that next position and you walk into that office, you are already sitting down and strategizing your 30, 60, and 90-day plan. You have put together a plan for each day of that first 30 days, everything that you want to accomplish in that week. And believe it or not, sometimes it's actually not making decisions. It's not making changes. Sometimes it's going through, becoming acclimated to the culture or to the environment, to the market, getting out and getting to know people, having conversations, analyzing the business so that you can see where the opportunities for change or growth or for improvement is. And at the same time, seeing where things are going great. Who are your stars? Who are your experts? All of these things, because you want to know who your resources are. One thing I'll tell you about leadership, it's not important that you know everything, but it's really important that you know who that person is that is the expert at whatever it is that you're focused on. And we'll get into that at some point throughout the program. So the other thing is to develop the confidence to be out front. A lot of people have difficulty being out front, where everybody is looking to them for decisions and looking to them to help guide them, especially when they're in situations where they feel like their back is up against the wall and they look for you to be the critical thinker to come up with the strategy in order to improve this area of the business, or maybe their area of the business is not performing and you are the leader. So one, they're concerned because they feel like maybe they're in a little bit of trouble because things aren't going a certain way, when in reality, as a leader, it's not always about, hey, I got you, you're doing something wrong. Nah, it's not always about that. Sometimes it's about doing what's best for the person, trying to identify the root cause of the issue that they're going through and helping them to improve that issue. That is one of the great things that you can do as a leader. So I want you to begin to identify your leadership style. That's important, because to me, one of the things that I've learned about myself over the years is that I don't particularly have one style. Sometimes, I might be transformational. Sometimes I might be motivational. It really, really changes. Just for me as a leader, I think that oftentimes it's like your kids. You have to be who you need to be for them in that moment. Right. And so sometimes you might have to be the rah-rah leader, right? You might need to get everybody fired up. And that might be what you're doing in terms of culture change, because maybe the culture is just kind of dragging and the energy is not there, and you may need to change things up. Sometimes you may need to be the highly charismatic leader because you're working to compel people to get the buy-in and to get people behind this new vision or this new way of thinking. It may change, and so you have to identify who you need to be. Like, is there a baseline style? Yeah, I think there's a baseline style because of just who you are, your character, your makeup. But that's more about you, and it's literally the foundation on which you build all of these other, leadership skills, talents, abilities, approaches, things of that nature. So, but you want to be able to at least have an idea of what the different leadership styles are, so that you can realize, look, all right, this is how I have to be in this situation, or this is how I need to be in this situation. But you know it, you're consciously aware of it. Also, what kind of leader will you become? Once you step into leadership, typically you're in leadership for a long time and you mature in leadership and you continue to develop in leadership. And that being the case, well, you're going to start to change a little bit, because I'll tell you, here's one of the things that I changed about, and this is something that's really important, because I started out in leadership very, very young. One of the things that's really important to me in leadership now is it sticks out. It is very important. It is something that I think is fundamental, and that is compassion. It's compassion. I think that leaders today should really evaluate how compassionate they are in their approach to people, in their interaction with people, and their approach to the business. It doesn't mean that you can't be assertive. It doesn't mean that you can't be a go-getter. It doesn't mean any of those things. The question is like, really, how compassionate are you? Are you patient? Do you listen? Do you give people your undivided attention? Are you an active listener? And there's all these things that fall under compassion, because you have to pay attention to your own behavior all the time. And you have to really be in tune. There are a lot of times where people will have issues that they're going through where it's impacting their lives. And so as a leader, we don't see it. When I was young, I'll be honest with you, there were times where somebody would tell me stuff and I didn't really care about what they had going on in their personal lives. I was more interested in what are we doing to advance the business, right? I was a go-getter, like major go-getter. So of course, our senior leaders, they loved that about me. I was a go-getter. I am always going to get the result. I was a top performer all the time. That was something that you knew that if I came to your market or if I was on your team, you knew you had somebody who was going to hit a home run every time. However, not everybody can keep up with that. And that's just reality. And it's not fair to say, oh, if they can't keep up, I got to let them go. You know what? Yeah, a lot of people will have that mentality and say that. However, guess what? When you originally recruited that person and you brought them on, there was something in particular about them, about their skill set. There was a reason why you brought them on. So now that you've brought them on, you knew throughout the recruiting process that this is who they were. So maybe they're adapting a little bit slower. Maybe they're not getting to that place that you want them to be as fast as you want them to be. However, there may be a reason for it. As a leader, what I've learned is to sit back and spend some time with them, walk with them throughout their day, get an idea of how they see the business. What are the things that they're looking at? What are they focused on when they come in? How does their day look? What does their routine look like for the day? Are they tied to the business, tapped into the business, focused on the business the way they should be? Or are they spinning their wheels in other places? So as you grow as a leader, you want to start to develop this level of compassion where you are able to slow down and really look beyond what you used to take for face value, because there may be some hidden treasure there. And so I've learned that in many cases there were hidden treasure there. Listen, I forged and I've pushed and drove people before and when they couldn't keep up, I wanted to get rid of them. But there were times where I would learn that, wait a minute, if I spent time with this person, I could actually get something out of them maybe. So then I would spend that time and find out that they've developed an entire process that's way better than the process that, we're doing here. And maybe we need to adapt their process because it looks like they're not doing anything, but in reality, they're getting more done in a shorter amount of time by doing it their way. And it's much more effective. They're not communicating it because me as the leader, all I'm doing is hounding on them about meeting this expectation when this expectation is a lot less of a higher standard than I originally thought. And theirs is actually the much higher standard. So when you sit back and you learn, now you see, okay, great. Their potential is in another place. It's not here. So the truth about leadership styles, which I already alluded to when I talked about to begin to identify your leadership style. The truth is there is not just one leadership style. There's not just 5. There's not just 7. There's not just 8. So anything you see on the internet that's telling you that there's just these leadership styles, that is not true. Why? One, we are not raised the same. We don't have the same background. We're not culturally from the same background. Where we were in terms of our geographical area is not the same. So as a leader think about the person who comes from the streets and the way they lead, and they have a very, very heavy street mentality, but they are very highly skilled. When they come into this environment, the way they maneuver the business is very different. A person who had everything given to them, they had this amazing life where, they didn't have to work. Parents took care of everything. Now they're in this leadership role where they didn't have to climb in the company. They didn't have to work in the company. They inherited a leadership role. When they step into that role, their leadership qualities, everything that they know about leadership is completely and totally different. Then you have that person who worked on the line. They were on the assembly. They were blue collar. They were working hard, grinding to get to a certain place. The way they see the business is going to be very different. So there's really no one leadership style. There's a ton of leadership styles. The beauty of it is everybody has something that they can bring to the table to develop your team, to develop your employees, to develop a culture, to build your business. And those are the program goals. Now, I want to do some storytelling real quick to give you a little bit of insight. I've had the opportunity to experience some different leadership styles, and I want to share those, right? So I'll give you one. I worked for in the automotive company, big company. And so I had a very interesting situation when I went in there. I was shifting from one company to another. So I thought, hey, I'll just go in there. I'll work my way up. Okay. And so I did. It was the strangest thing. I was in a position for 2 weeks, and then I was promoted. Then I was in a position again for 2 weeks, and then I was like promoted. And then I was like a week later, the VPs and everybody flew in, and then I was promoted, and I was given all this responsibility. And then, from there, it just blew up even more, and I was given a bunch more responsibility. Okay. And so now my position it kind of went a jump to a jump. And this all happened in like a month's time, right? They caught on. Now, here's the deal. The business partner that I had, because I was in distributions there. Now, my role was not in distributions. All right. I handled like all of the risk management, security, loss prevention, assets protection, everything tied to that, right? So in that department, and then it was regional, and I had multiple facilities and 100-something stores, and it was like 197 stores. It was crazy. But my business partner in this, he had been with the company 23 years. He was highly respected. He operated with an iron fist. And interestingly enough, everybody who was in my position, he ran them out of there because it's his way or the highway. He taught me a very valuable lesson. I'm going to come back to him. Another leader in a different company that I was with, this leader was the manipulator. This leader would manipulate the employees to get their way. And they were highly effective at it, to the point that the company had on multiple occasions been investigating this person because they knew something was up, but they couldn't figure it out. And of course, because of my background, when this company recruited me, they brought me in and they wanted me to, sort of take on the task of investigating this person. And I learned a very valuable lesson. I'm going to share that lesson too, right? I'm going to go back to the first person with the iron fist. What I learned from him was, I learned that it's okay to not always take the credibility. No one could get this guy to do anything that they needed him or wanted him to do. It was his way or the highway. And so there were times when we would sit in meetings, and after I would roll out all of these things that were focused on in this, that, or the other, he would pull out of it what he wanted my team to focus on, and he wanted me to focus on. And he would basically just say, okay, so you're going to focus on this right here, right? And so I would just sit there like, that is not what I talked about. We never even, but like, what? But he did. He expected me to, not just me, everybody. And so everybody sort of bent to his will. Even the people who were in senior leadership at the corporate office, states away. Everybody bent to this guy's will, but it was because in the 23 years, he had been a high performer all of that time. Like literally, I didn't understand like why this guy is not the CEO based off of how he's maneuvering things. And he would challenge and challenge. So I tested the waters. I started pushing back against his iron fist. But what he would do was he would come around from a different angle or he would go up top and have them call me. So I would get a call from the CFO, or I would get a call from the VP, and they would have a discussion with me because now I'm pushing back on what it is that he's doing. The great thing though is I always said I was a high performer. One of the things that I always did was I dotted my I's and I crossed my T's. So it was very difficult for you to prove that I've ever done anything wrong or to say that I didn't do something that I know I did. But this guy was very slick to the point where, because when you work in distributions, you're talking about trailers and trailers of merchandise, and we're talking like in the millions of dollars and things like that. And so my teams kept an account of all of that stuff, including transportation. And so there were times where my team would go out and they would spot check, they would check seals, they would do all types of things. And then things would, a little bit later, here everybody comes and flies in, our CEO and everyone, and they go out there after they've printed out the reports that my team has come up with. And then all of a sudden, those trailers are gone. Those trailers are gone. And then he would do some crazy things, So I started to realize that trying to fight him, it was really like sort of kicking a concrete wall. It was kicking a concrete wall. The only person that I was hurting was myself, and I was hurting my team. So instead of doing that, what I started to do was I started to make it, twist it up a little bit, make it to where the things that I were coming up with, they were great ideas. They were great ideas. Pretty much every other manager, every other leader, they were totally on board with it. But everybody knew if I couldn't get this guy to move on it, nothing was going to happen. So what I started doing was, I started approaching him a little bit differently. I started approaching him with energy where, I started talking about the great things that he was doing and really sort of promoting what he was running. And then I would sort of throw my idea in there. And when I threw my idea in there, I would eventually make him feel like it was his idea. All right. I would make him feel like it was his idea. It took a while for me to understand how to sort of maneuver that process to get him to do it. But there was a time where I wanted to have something built. I needed something built. And it was to protect the employees. Here we are. We've got, I don't know, in this one facility, we've got like 500 something employees in this one facility. And I'm thinking, okay, I need, because of the area, I need this to be secured. We need to make an investment here and here, and we've got to upgrade all of these things. And so I needed it to be done. And I knew that the expense was going to be massive. So instead of me presenting it as it being my idea, I started to point out the great things that we would accomplish by doing it and how it would actually help his business and how it would improve the flow of his business and how it would improve transportation, all these different logistical things, right? And so I pointed out how it was really a great idea and that, what made him think of that? I would say things like that, like, what made you think of that? That was a great idea. And he would just kind of he would be stuck in the whole, all me blowing him up and making him feel good and talking about his business. And then he would just sit there and be like, you know what? That was a good idea. I'm glad I thought of that. And it would work. And I did not want the credit. I didn't want the credit. What I needed I needed this to get done. I needed it to get done. And not only that, up top in at the corporate office, my boss, we would have a conversation. He would ask me how I'm going to approach it, and I would tell him how I was going to approach it. He would tell me, I don't think that's going to work, Ty. And it would work. And then he would fly in town and just be like, okay, let's go have lunch. This is crazy. You got to tell me this whole entire story. How did you get this to happen? But it would work. And so I started to get the craziest momentum with the guy that nobody else had ever got. And now his people were starting to come to me to help them drive their things, the things that they wanted to get done, because now he's listening to me. He's listening to me all the time. I don't want the credit. I just need the work done. You can do the work. I'll come with the ideas. I'll present the ideas in a way that he walks away thinking that it was his idea. Now, if you try that, you've got to really understand the person that you're working with and the person that you're doing it with, because they may pick up on it. And I'm sure at some point he probably did pick up on it, because there was times where he would just he went from never wanting to have lunch with anyone that worked in our paradigm to he always wants to have lunch with me. He's always inviting me to lunch. His wife is cooking food and he's bringing food and we're sitting down there eating and we're trying different cultures and all kinds of stuff. And people would just sit there and like literally stare at us. They couldn't believe it because he was such a hard nose. But the iron fist guy can be broken. The iron fist gal can be broken. It's just you've really got to understand how to approach them, how to communicate with them, how to win them over and get their buy-in. And sometimes it's using their iron fist against them. Now, the manipulator was a little bit different. Let me tell you something about this manipulator. This person was so good at manipulating. The person was a thief, a manipulator, anything that you can fall up under that very good. Like if I were a doctor, I would probably have said that the person was a psychopath. Like they were really, really good at manipulation. And this company knew that something was wrong, but they could not figure out how to change this, how to stop this, what to do about it. And so I had had some experience in the previous company with the iron fist in that company. I had had some previous experience with people who were at high levels, vice presidents and stuff like that, where they were, sort of doing some things, and they had me come in and figure out what was going on and, take care of the business, so to speak. And so with this person, I'll tell you, manipulators are like, I would compare them to a cat when they're backed into a corner and they want to claw their way out or want to fight. I guess any creature, period. But they're always in that place. They're always conniving. They're always sneaky. They're always like lying and maneuvering and cheating and setting people up and doing all types of things. And so with that person, when you run into those types of leaders, what's really important is that, one, you document everything. You document everything. You document every conversation. I don't care if it's you on your phone sending yourself a note. You pay close attention. You be observant. You watch how they communicate with others. You watch how they maneuver throughout the business. You look and pay very close attention to the decisions that they make. You want to see how heavy weighted that decision is in their favor, when as a leader, your job is to focus on the big team. You have big team responsibility. It's not primarily about you. After a while, when you start to realize that they're manipulating all these things to bring everything back to them, you have to approach that person somewhat cautiously, because if you haven't done your research ahead of time to know what they've got in the pocket that they're going to use against you, because those type of people, they always are looking for something to use against you. So here, what did I learn from this person? I had to become a chameleon, because when I came into this company and they pulled me aside and let me know about this person and let me know that they were going to put me in the environment with this person for this specific reason, because they had been trying for years to catch this person, to find out what it was that they're doing. Who likes to be that person that goes in and you have to play this role? However, when I sat back and I watched how this person was really impacting the employees, the culture, and the culture was horrible. It was deplorable, but it was all because of this one person. People were intimidated. There was the whole quid pro quo thing going on. You do some little favors here. You've got this person pulling people in the office and doing special favors and all kinds of stuff behind closed doors. And so you really gotta be observant, and you gotta go operate with caution, but you have to be strategic. Every move needs to be planned. You don't just ask questions just to be asking questions. You ask the right questions to get the right answer. Bottom line, you don't have too much idle talk with this person. So how did I approach this, and what did I learn? I learned to become a chameleon, because I knew that the company, they brought me in, the leadership team, they brought me in and they had set me down and had the conversation with me with regards to this leader. And now I had to figure out how to approach this leader. And this person outright asked me, "Are you here to try to get me?" That was our introduction. It blew me away, right? But it let me know that they knew, number one, you are dirty. You're dirty. Number two, this culture is the way it is, and the performance of this business is the way it is because of you. And that is not okay, because that means that money is going down the drain people are unhappy. There were people crying. I started to open up the door, so I started to take statements from people and just to get an idea of the culture and them telling me things, but they're crying while they're telling me. They're so unhappy. I spoke with an hourly employee, and I mean, if she had a shovel and a pick, she would have stabbed me, dug a ditch, and buried me in it because she was so pissed off about me being there because she felt like my presence meant that that leader was going to take it out on everyone else. And apparently it had been so bad before that they didn't want anybody else to come in because they didn't want to go through that again. And who am I to come in now and create this problem for them? So I made sure that I assured them that that would not be the case. But I became a chameleon. I got to know this person. You know, I spent time with this person. I got to understand their inner thinking, the way they approach things. And after a while, they eventually figured it out, right? But it was too late by then. I had everything already. I had already had everything that I needed. I did everything that I could to get this person up out of there because, I mean, they were literally just ruining lives. And when you're in that situation, you got to get them out. But this person, when they finally found out, jumped over the table in my face and tried to intimidate me. And I'm not a small guy, I'm not a small guy. I'm not a guy who's easily intimidated, but you know, when you deal with those type of people, here's what I'll say. You operate with caution. You take your time. You gather your information. All right. So then there's another leader that I had. I call him the thoughtful professor, because he was the one who told me, Ty, slow down. Ty, learn to be appropriately transparent. What that meant was you don't have to share everything. But whenever you see an opportunity where you can share an experience that you wouldn't otherwise share it so that you can bridge the gap, so that you can connect with someone. It's not about sharing my life and highlighting my life. It's about letting them know that I'm human. I'm not a robot. I'm a person, you know? And so that ties to the compassion part for me. That ties directly to the compassion part for me. He taught me several lessons. He was actually a chief of police before he got into the environment, became into the environment where we were at. And he was a chief of police in a small town and where everybody knew each other. And so how he approached his job was, you know, very much where he was connected. It was all about being connected with the people. And he taught me how to do more connecting with the people and get much further by doing so. Okay, so let's get into the meats and potatoes of this thing. If you need to take a break right now, you can take a break, a pause, because this part, we're going to move really, really fast through this part. This is the first session. I want it to be more introductory. It looks like we're going to be ending in less than an hour. It's 5:37 right now in the AM, but originally I wanted to be done at 5:40. However, we're going to go a little bit farther. So this part should actually take us about 15 minutes. All right. So an exploration of the depths of leadership, time to grow as a leader. Mission. Here's what I want you to do. Manage, vision, and purpose. I said mission. I was about to get into something else. No, it is manage, vision, and purpose. So what am I talking about? Communicate a compelling vision and inspire purpose. That's important. Speak people into the future. So if your business is going into one direction or you have this vision, you have to speak them. You have to include them, make them a part of that. Okay, build them into that vision that you created and lead from a place of optimism. Okay, what it could be, how it could be, based off of their inclusion. As you include them, talk about what they bring to the table. Make it a point to not leave people behind. So when you have a staff and you have a team and you're always focused on the ones that are doing great, but the ones who are slow to come along, you're kind of, you're not really focused on them. Well, guess what? If you leave them behind that way and you don't bring them along, well, they're going to fall farther behind. And it's not so much that they can't do it. It's just that Other people are catching on a whole lot faster. If they've been there the entire time, while in the old way of doing things, they were very effective. Now you want them to learn the new things. Some people, they may be ready for new. Other people, they may be warming up to new because they've got to unlearn these other things and now they've got to learn this stuff. People are very different in the modalities in which they learn. So it's very important to be patient with those people and to bring them along as you bring the others along. It's kind of like scoring a touchdown. Like one player scores a touchdown and then they turn around and the rest of the team come up and everybody's cheering. Imagine if that one person scored a touchdown and then they turned around and they looked for just one particular player and they ran to that one particular player. It wasn't that one particular player that helped them score. It was all 11 people, including the ones on the sideline that helped them score. Now you might be saying, well, how did the people on the sideline help them score? At practice. Every day at practice, the scout team, whether you're on offense or defense, when you're working with those people, putting that play together and you run it over and over and over and over and over again every day until you got to that place where you're to the actual game day. Everybody's been included in that. So you not only celebrate there, if you watch them, you see when they come onto the sideline, everybody's high-fiving, giving hugs and this, that, or the other because that person just scored. Well, everybody made that play happen. So bring everybody along. Celebrate with everybody. Have patience with those who take a bit longer to get it. One more thing. Follow through. You're going to require a lot from people when you're going through this process of sharing the vision and purpose. You're going to require a lot of people. So when people have assignments, follow through. When people are doing things, follow through. Always follow through. Don't just throw it out there. We have people that come through, we call them pelicans. They come through, they drop some crap, and then they fly out of there. Don't be that person. Don't be a pelican, all right? Be a leader who follows through and who recognizes people for their contribution and the amazing things that they do. So motivate and inspire your team, your employees. How do you do that? Create an environment where people want to perform at their best. I've been lucky enough to sort of be one of those individuals that I've built teams where people want to be on the team. They love being on the team. They want to work for me. I've had people in other departments who, they'll come over, which is awesome. I love that. Even when I coached in sports, I would have all the other positions that are coming over because they see all of this great work that my team is getting, the position that I'm coaching, they see all this great work and everybody wants to get into this great work. It's very technical. They're learning the ins and outs. I'm teaching them. I've taken them from the basics to the advanced and they're getting it. And then the outcome of that is they're recognized by the league or they're recognized by the conference, or in a corporate sense, these people are being promoted. These people are getting raises. Their reviews are very high. They've got great mentors who are also adding value to, their process, their journey in their career and things like that. And then from a business standpoint, you've got people who are growing, who are learning, and their businesses, they're going up. And people always talk about the 10X. Well, before you get to 10, you got a 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X, 6X. And so I always talk about the 4X because, I love to get in there. And once you get the momentum and we take you from where you are and you've gone up 4 levels, let me tell you something. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, all you've got to do is you've got to maintain. You've just got to maintain. So create an environment where people want to perform at their best. Invite input, embrace ideas, share ownership, visibility, and recognition. Listen, don't pretend like it was just you. Don't try to take all the credit. People have great ideas. Listen to those ideas. Embrace those ideas. Don't just dust them off the shoulder because that idea, it may not apply right now, but somewhere in the process, it may have a huge, huge impact. But if you shake it off right now, when you need that idea, you may have completely forgot about it and forgot who told you about it because you didn't give it the type of energy, attention that it needed at that time because you didn't embrace it. Now, look, share the ownership. You didn't do all the work. You weren't beating the pavement. You weren't the foot troopers, the ground troopers. That wasn't you. You were leading. You were out in front. That's okay. I like to lead a lot of times from behind. I'm still in the front, right? it's like the arrow. It's like if you have a spear and you have the tip of the spear, right? So yeah, I'm the tip of the spear. I'm the tip of the spear. I'm going to be the first to jump into the fire. I'm going to be the first to make impact, right? Because that's my job. However, I'm going to lead from the back because look, the tip of that spear, if I just threw it without the rest of that the stick or the pole or whatever's at the back end of that, without that, that thing is just a tool like a rock that you're throwing. It may puncture, it may not, but it changes when you add the back end to that spear. It changes. So I'm going to lead from the back and let my team have the greater impact. And then when it's time to get up in the front, instead of me going there and it's just being me, no, I'm going to stand this whole thing up. The whole entire team, we're all going to stand up. Everybody's going to be a part of receiving the visibility and recognition for the job well done, for the accomplishments that we made, because it was not just me. Oftentimes we look at things where we're like, you just want it to be you. Most of the highly successful people, they did it with a team. Like, I don't know too many people who have done it alone, like absolutely alone. Look, if you go and if you have a business and you go and you get a line of credit or you get a loan from the bank, every bank has turned you down, but this one has said, no, I'm going to help you out. They just helped you accomplish your goal, because without that loan, you wouldn't have been able to do the things that you've been able to do. So now you're able to do or accomplish these goals. You're able to accomplish these goals because of the partnership or the relationship or the collaboration that you have with this bank or this credit union or whoever is helping you to finance this project or this business. So they too deserve recognition. How do you recognize them? Hey, send them new clients, send them some new customers, send them some new business owners who are looking for loans. They would love that. So make them feel that their work is important. This is important. When I was sitting down processing and typing this out, here's what I want you to listen to. Make them feel that their work is important, not make them feel like their work is important. That, the difference in using that versus using like, okay? Make them feel like their work is important. It kind of gives off the feeling that, yeah, okay, cool. I could have done it without you. I don't really need you. Yeah, that's cool. Whatever, No. Make them feel that their work is important, because it is. Because it is. That you did, I needed that. We needed you to do that. If you hadn't done that, we would not be here. So that person is special. What they do is special. What they bring to the table is special. It's important that you communicate that. So you have to pay attention to your words. Words have a huge impact. Words can hurt or they can heal. You can inspire or you can tear down. So pay attention to that and be keen to the words, right? So become the person that people want to work for. I can tell you something. Having people beating down the door to come work for you, to be on your team, it feels great. It is the greatest feeling as a leader, because in so many ways, it kind of validates that how you approach the business, everything that you're doing is working, right? It's working, and people are benefiting, people are growing, people are accomplishing their goals, whatever goals they have for their careers. People are accomplishing them, and they're getting to places that they otherwise might not have gotten to had it not been for the impact that you were having on their career, the guidance, the leadership, the communication, the time that's spent. It's very valuable, and they value that time. And so I would say always pay attention to the heartbeat of the concrete. Listen to what people are saying. Pay attention to their feedback. So let's get into the second part of this, right? The second part of this. I think we're past the second part. This is about the third part. Let's get into this, right? Leadership is all about you. Two topics that we're going to go over. Okay, the first topic is understanding others and taking things personal. All right. You start with other things, understanding others, okay? Because leadership is about you. It starts with you. So this program, the first part of this program is really going to be focused on you as the individual, all right? So I said 15 minutes. No, we will be done by 6. That's for sure. Okay. So understanding others. The good leader. The good leader picks up on a person's stance and viewpoint, understands their intention and needs. So if a person comes to you, an employee comes to you, and they have a point that they want to make, they have a stance on something, and I'll give you an idea. There was a time where we were changing our processes, and then we had people who had been working for the company for 20 plus years, where they took a hard stance on the process, the way they were doing it. But I had identified through a ton of research and case studies that doing it a different way would be better. Presented that to, our executive team, and the executive team were, they agreed that this is actually a better way of doing it. So what did we do? We rolled this out to test stores. When we tested it, the test stores said, they improved like dramatically. Their process improved, performance improved, payroll. We had a reduction in payroll because we didn't need as many people working at that time. So we were able to move that payroll to other places by allowing them people to work in other areas and things like that. So we didn't cut their hours. It's just it opened up for more hours to be allocated to other departments. It was a huge win. It was a great win. However, for those people, they were like, no. Here's why. I don't like this. It's going to cause this. It's going to cause that. Now, listen, although you don't agree, their viewpoint is very valid. It's coming from a genuine place. So one, you want to listen. You want to understand why they're communicating it. And for me, this is the worst way of saying this, but it's real. Old dog learning new tricks. The old dog was having a hard time letting go of the old way of doing things and adapting to the new way of doing things. So it was important for me to communicate how it was going to make their job easier, and how they were now, if they were having those moments where they were stressed because they are overwhelmed by the enormous amount of work that they have, well, we're going to reduce that. We're going to eliminate the stress. We're going to reduce this whole thing where you're having all of this workload, right? And we're going to make it seamless to where things flow. They flow faster, more efficiently, things like that. And then, that was important. At the same time, though, I had the opportunity to understand what their needs. So what did they need? One, they needed training. And the training needed to be a little bit different for them than it was for someone else. It needed to be sort of step by step, a little bit slower, things like that. So what are some ways that we could get them to open up? So as they communicate their viewpoint, paraphrase what you hear and say it back to them. Let them know you understand, and do so with empathy. Do so from a genuine place. Really pay attention. Be in the moment. Be tuned into the person. Don't just say stuff just to be saying stuff. All right. So what's the other thing? Probe for understanding. Probe for understanding. They're going to say different things, and listen, I'm going to tell you something. There are times where I just play dumb. Someone will say something, but I'll ask questions because I want them to expand on what it is that they're saying. And then there are other times where I'll just say, hey, can you expand on that? Can you speak a little bit more on that? So the next thing, we're still on understanding others. Now, these are the things that good leaders do. So everything that I just communicated to you is what a good leader does. A good leader picks up on a person's stance and viewpoint, understands their intention and needs. A good leader paraphrases what they hear, and they will say it back to them. A good leader will probe for understanding. All right. Another thing that a good leader does, they make the effort to figure out what others value and what motivates them, versus assuming and claiming to know. Good leader is in tune. Because they're in tune, it affords them the ability to predict others' actions in a variety of situations. When I know my employees and I've spent a ton of time with them, I've developed them to see the business through my eyes, through the eyes of other leaders, to look at it on a higher level, to process things differently than they would if they were just an hourly employee or just a manager or just a supervisor. When I'm able to get them to process the business as if they own the business, or they're the vice president of the business, or they're the CEO of the business. When I get them to see things that way, and I give them the opportunity to sort of maneuver through the business, having taken on or assumed this role, built it into their personality as they work about. They take ownership of the way things perform. They take ownership of outcomes. After a while, you'll start to see that in their behavior. You'll start to see them work very differently than they worked in the past. Ultimately, because you're in tune with that person, whenever there's a circumstance or there's a situation, it could be an emergency. You'll already know how they're going to handle it. You'll already know how they're going to handle it. So you won't have to worry. You eliminate the stress. Those are the things that good leaders do. Now let's talk about the bad but skilled leader. A bad but skilled leader spends too much time trying to analyze and understand and will likely generalize in their appraisals of individuals. They spend too much time trying to analyze and understand and will likely generalize in their appraisals of individuals. Have you ever made an assumption about somebody? You just sat there trying to figure them out. You couldn't get it, and you were like, nah, they're that type of person. That's no. The good leader is going to just get to know that person. They're going to make the effort to get to know that person, to understand the way that person thinks, what makes them tick. They're not just going to assume. They're not going to generalize. That's what a bad leader, a person who's a bad leader, but they're skilled, but they're a bad leader. That's what they do. So the bad but skilled leader, they let their personal distortions dictate their impressions on others. Okay? They let their personal impressions about a group determine how they feel about an individual. So I'll give you an example. Excuse me. As the leader, you've got these groups that you're putting together to work on something, and one of the people that you're like, yeah, I see them, they got the potential, they end up in a group that is like your F group. They're not the A group. They, instead of them shifting over to the F group, they go to the going to the A group, they go to the F group. And you're kind of like, what the? Oh, okay. Yeah, they're not who I thought they were. When in reality, the reason that person went to the F group, for them, they saw the F group just, and their countenance, their faces were dragging. They were not, projecting energy, and they just seemed like they were down. And so that person said, no, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to tell them a joke. You look up as the leader. Now they're laughing. You're making all of these inferences. You don't know why they're laughing or whatever, but you're just making these assumptions. You've got these impressions that are coming from this distorted place, rather than you really kind of finding out, being patient. Don't assume, don't pass judgment, because in reality, what's happening with that person that you don't know is they went over there, told them a joke because they seen that they were low energy. They wanted to get them fired up about what it was that you were about to have them do. So instead of the star player going over there with the rest of the stars, the star player said, nah, I'm going to go over here with these guys and I'm going to help to bring them up to our level. But you as the leader, you're skilled. You're definitely skilled in your job, but you're being a bad leader right now because you're making assumptions. Instead, what's good is to go over there and say, hey, I saw you went over there with the F team. Yeah, okay. Well, what prompted you to do that? Hey, man, I seen them, man. They didn't have energy. They didn't have the energy that we needed to make this happen. So I had to go over there. I can always go over there. I know those guys have the energy. They're going to have the energy without me. We need them to have the energy. Wow, you as a leader going over there, now it gives you the opportunity to recognize them for seeing the business the way you see the business, because they know we need everybody firing on all cylinders. Gives you the opportunity to now go over there and recognize them. It also will validate what you're thinking originally, that they have the potential. Okay. So let's go to the bad but unskilled leader as it relates to understanding others. They don't even try to understand. Okay. They stereotype and they rush to judgment. They only relate people. Like they relate to those who are similar to them. They have similar characteristics, you know what I mean? So if they're a person who likes to gossip, well, guess what? They gravitate toward people who gossip. If they're a person who likes to sort of backbite and talk about people behind their back, then they gravitate toward people who do the same. That's a bad leader. They can't connect to people or motivate others. That person should not be in leadership at all. And if we go back to one of the stories where I was talking about the manipulator, That was the manipulator. That was the manipulator. That person should not be in leadership. You probably would say, well, the iron fist person shouldn't be in there. But the iron fist person was the bad leader who was highly skilled, right? Highly skilled. So it was just a matter of somebody at some point should have worked with him to change that. So the bad but skilled leader in taking things personal. The bad but skilled leader becomes hypercritical of others. They stop listening, they start targeting and over controlling. They retaliate. Okay. That one is really bad in the workplace, retaliating on people because maybe you didn't get your way. Now, if you notice, as it relates to taking things personal, I started with the bad but skilled leader. Okay. After retaliation, then retaliating, they incorrectly read people and circumstances. I want you to think back on those. Hypercritical, stops listening, starts targeting, over controlling, retaliates, incorrectly reads people and circumstances. That is the bad but skilled leader. The bad but unskilled leader finds fault with intent to aim blame. Okay. They take a victim position, but they're not even under attack. They're unwilling to let go of judgments, regardless of how false that judgment is. They're not open to further evidence. They don't even want to find out anything else. They don't want to know about anything else. All right. What they believe in this moment is true. It's no different than them feeling like they're under attack and they're not under attack. So they take the victim role. They are closed-minded and resentful toward others and not open to further evidence at all. And I mentioned that again. Okay. Why do I mention that again? One of the great things about being a leader is having the ability to investigate, to find out what's going on. It's when they don't find out what's going on. That's when there's an issue, because now you're jumping out there and you're putting not only yourself at risk, you're putting the company at risk, you're putting your team at risk, you're putting your coaches, your mentors, you're putting everybody at risk because you're making a decision that is based on false intel. That could lead to a disastrous situation. And so it's very, very important that you seek further evidence by investigating, doing research, and probing. But unfortunately, the bad but unskilled leader, yeah, you're probably not going to get that. The good leader is open to criticism and isn't defensive. They are receptive to discussing shortcomings. They gain insight from mistakes, feedback, and from the honest perceptions of others. They analyze both negative and positive feedback for truth and accuracy. So I jumped from one. I was recruited by this company. I was literally recruited out of the Iron Fist company into this other company. And so when I was going through that company, I was at a higher level position. I came down when this company recruited me to another position, but of course they made up for it in pay. The pay was like a whole lot more. And so part of that was because they had planned on sort of promoting me, but they wanted to sort of take me through this developmental process to get there. So they made it where I would be comfortable in that process. Some of the leaders in like when you come on and you're onboarded and you're connected with these different leaders, a lot of these leaders, they had difficulty with me because they put me in a training environment where the people that I was training with, they were not at the level that I was at, and they were not used to being in the same room with people that were at that level that I had come from. And so, mind you, I'm coming from 197 stores and this or the other to now only less than 10. And so what was interesting was I would ask questions that were on a very high level, and they were not used to that. It actually intimidated them because they assumed that where I was coming from was the same level that some of the other ones was. Now, here's the crazy part. I assumed that the people that I was in the room with, that they were coming from the same place that I had come from. It wasn't until I started to pay closer attention to the questions that they were asking. They were not the type of questions that a person who was in a higher level position would ask. And so the people who were doing the training of the class, they were not at a level where they could answer the questions of a person who was coming from the level that I was in. So they felt intimidated. These ones felt uncomfortable. So the leadership who was over that whole, training course for those weeks, they felt like I was just intimidating people and making people feel uncomfortable and this, that, or the other. And they told me to dumb it down a little bit and smile more. And so for me, I'll tell you, when I'm paying attention and I'm deeply in, I will be sort of looking and listening, and I'll make facial expressions, but I can understand how those facial expressions can be misread. And it's just that I'm like totally in tune and I'm really engaged with what you're saying and I'm paying attention. And so I'm processing it. And when you paint the picture or you create the picture, whatever that vision is, I'm playing that out in my head as I'm listening to you tell it. And so I realize I wear that on my face a lot. And so it was making people feel uncomfortable because, again, in the environment that I come from, this is pretty normal. Everybody, we're all fully engaged and we're looking at the business through this very, very wide lens. Whereas here, the lens is very narrow and very focused. Ours is focused. However, the impact is big. Here, not so much. And so they told me to, that maybe this was not the right company for me. Maybe I needed to go to another company and this, that, or the other, right? Interestingly enough, after they did all this, and they were kind of making my my life hell, but I was walking through the halls and one of the vice presidents came up behind me and he grabbed me and he put me in a headlock, right? And he started doing this right here. And he goes, "Hey, I've been hearing about all this feedback that I'm getting from you." He's like, "What do you think about it?" I was like, "I don't know what's going on. It's kind of crazy." He was like, "I know." He said, "Listen, here's what I'll tell you. Anytime somebody gives you some feedback, you don't just accept it. Say, don't just accept feedback because somebody's giving you feedback." He said, "What I need you to do is I need you to validate their feedback. If you can't validate their feedback, then they're a crack job." He said, "It's not you that has the problem. It's them that has the problem." He's like, "I know what you're capable of. I know what you bring to the table, and I know what you're going to do." He said, "So you just stay focused. You do what you have to do." He said, "And you come in here and you come over into my office and you talk to me before you leave." He's like, "I don't care if you come talk to me every day." He's like, "Don't worry about that." He's like, "You're going through the process and you're going to be successful." He's like, "But I need you to not just let people give you feedback." He said, "Because when you walk away, silence is acceptance. You've accepted that. If you don't challenge them on their feedback by asking them, what is it that you saw? What did I do what did I do specifically that gave you that perception? What did I say specifically that gave you that perception?" If you're not doing that, then you're doing yourself a disservice. It was a huge lesson for me because right away I started doing that and I started to notice the difference in how I was being treated or how I was being approached and how people were uncomfortable because standing in front of the class of all these people, it's literally like their time to shine. But I'm asking questions that have put them in a place where they can't shine. They don't have an answer. They don't even know about that aspect of the business. They don't know the depths of that aspect of the business because the level of leadership where they haven't achieved or they haven't reached this level of leadership. And so for me, the more I started to identify that, it became easier for me to sort of process where this sort of feedback, because that feedback that they were given, it was valid for them. And I realized it's valid for them because, yes, my questions the questions that I'm asking, it's robbing them of their shine. This is their moment to shine while they're the trainer in front of the class presenting. And I ask them a question related to the topic that they're presenting on, and they can't answer it. And it's not just one time, 2 times, 3 times, it's 10 to 12 times, sometimes even more, or I will just stop. And see, the thing was, I didn't always know what they knew or they didn't know because they communicated with confidence as if they did. And there were multiple leaders and it would happen multiple times. And so I got to a point where I just started, instead of going to them with my questions, I would just go and I would sit with the VP and we would just have dialogue and he would answer my questions. So I'm going to close on that. No, I'm gonna tell you, I was very highly successful at that company. And interestingly enough, every single person who told me that you needed to probably go find a new company, this is probably not a good company for you, all of them eventually went away, separated from the company, because as we continue to raise the bar to get to a certain level, it wasn't us pushing them out. Sometimes people can't keep up, and so they make the decision themselves to take off and find something new. And then I just kept going and going and going until eventually being recruited out by a much bigger company to do much more. So anyway, I'm Ty. Thank you for being with me. I said we are going to be out of here by 6. What time is it? I think we're 10 minutes over. Oh my gosh, I got to get that together. It's the first session. It is the first session. I want to tell you, thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you very much for checking out this video. I hope you'll join me for the next one. I am Ty. I want you to have a great morning. Have a good day. Make this day great. Whatever you do, make this day great. And if anything that I said here today you can apply to your journey through leadership, I would tell you to apply it. And feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, follow me on IG, TP Elevates. Of course, that's my podcast. So TP Elevates, TP Elevates. That's what we're doing here. All right, I'm Ty Pinkney, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. Later.